The Joe's resident redhead is going with the retro look instead. Here to look at the G.I. Joe Retro Counterintelligence Scarlett. A martial arts expert who started practicing at age 9, Scarlett graduates summa cum laude with 2 Ivy League universities and went on to excel training courses in all 4 branches of the armed forces. I think if Cobra's not too careful, they might find themselves in the sights of a crossbow. While they're coming up with ways to surrender, let's take the tape measure and see how tall the new retro Scarlett stands. Sorry for spitting on everybody. The figure isn't going to be as tall as Duke that we looked at earlier. She, in fact, actually is more closer to about 5.5 inches in height, or about 14 centimeters tall. Retro Scarlett meet Retro Duke. I figured we've already had a look at both of them, at least can say that they look like the original 80s toy line. The same at all can be said for the Classified Series Duke, and hasn't changed at all when we bring in the Classified version of Scarlett. Not at all do I feel like this looks like Scarlett. It also awkwardly looks like somebody I used to date. Oh, that ended so badly. Scarlett, though, isn't as tall as the Classified Series release of her, but like said already, at least she looks like the original 80s toy line and the cartoon as well. I suppose if you count her hair extensions, Scarlett's got Duke's accessories beat. First, the figure does come included with a display stand, which, speaking of Duke, isn't at all different from the one that we got from Duke. Doubling still down on the unnecessary need of adding double pegs. Why is Hasbro adding double pegs to these display stands when I feel like one peg would be more than enough? These plug onto the bottoms of her boots, whether you want to go with both or you want to go with just one. It's going to help, of course, have Scarlett standing so she's not going to take a tumble. Now, when we are going to be looking at Recondo, I would imagine, being a Joe member of an all, is probably going to have the exact same type of stand. But will a Cobra retro figure have the same star on the top, or will it be a Cobra symbol? Time will tell, or you can easily just tell me down below if you already have a retro Cobra figure. Let's move that off to the side. As mentioned already, Scarlett does come included with not 1, but 2 hair extensions that are different technically from one another. One is the more straighter variety of ponytail. One is a curly Q. If you did want to change these out, it's just a case, actually, if you look at the back of Scarlett's head. She has a very awkward-looking hole that tells you right away where the ponytail is going to plug. Now, you can either go with the straight ponytail, which just basically plugs into the hole like that, or she's going on a night at the town. I guess it's the windy nights. You can also plug in this ponytail. So she's got a little bit more. I actually kind of like the curlier ponytail a little bit more. Still going to cause a problem, though, when you get to the backpack. The problem with the backpack, though, is that obviously there's a hole in the back of her torso that when it comes time to add the pack, you have to plug it in place, and then you have to put the ponytail there. Now, the ponytail, if you go with this one, at least slithers around the pack a little bit better. If you go with the straight one, you're always going to have to, unfortunately, have her head turned. Probably one of the reasons why they also gave you 2. Still, though, if you want to have her head looking straight forward, it's always going to be butting up against the pack. And a lot of times it ends up doing what it's just doing right now. It's going to pop the ponytail off. You may not choose to even want to have the backpack on there, which I know we didn't really spend any time looking at that. Let's just put her down here for a second. The backpack, there we go. The backpack is molded sort of more in a khaki color. There's pegs on the sides here that will serve a purpose in a second. At least it's a solid backpack. There's no hollow opening on the back. Of course, this, again, plugs onto her back. But, it's just a shame, though, that there's really no way around it. I mean, I suppose, like, if you want to go with the straight ponytail, is going to only get in the way. Ultimately, though, I'm not going to have the figure displayed with the backpack, so why am I even complaining about it? Just stop complaining about it. There is actually one other complaint I did want to talk about. Why are we getting in all? Let's get in all the complaints right now, and we'll move on to sunnier skies. The figure also comes included with a knife and a gun. We'll look at the knife first. The knife is okay. I mean, I don't know if I like the idea that the blade is brown like this. Could they not have given her like a silver blade or like a gunmetal blade? The actual handle is, again, more of that khaki color. Now, she does have storage spaces on these. If you move up the figure's arms, she actually has a little holster on the side, so you can take yourself the knife. You don't have to make the sound effect, of course, when you're putting it in there, but she does have at least a holster to hold the knife. She does also come included with a pistol. Now, looking on the figure, though, there doesn't seem to be a place that stores the pistol. You would think, though, that they would have actually put like a little holster or something on there. There is, obviously, this one isn't going to be working at all with the pistol. It's actually there for her arrows. But yeah, there's no place at all, even if they had it on the side. I know it's just going to add unnecessary bulk, so maybe that's one of the reasons why they only chose to have a sheath for the knife and nothing more. Of course, you can get the knife. You can, of course, get the gun, and either one of them plug into her hands. Because, like with Duke, she does also have a trigger finger. It works perfectly fit around the trigger of the gun. Don't point that at me, whatever you do. Here's one of the other things that kind of bothers me about Scarlett, is the fact that she does also come included with a crossbow. Not that she does come included with one, but the way that they've done this, I think the Classified series did this as well, where you have the front of the crossbow as a removable piece. Now, if you're looking at the way that that's designed, there is minus maybe, of course, the little hair, there is this tiny little notch of a little piece of plastic that sticks up like this, and it's so small. And then if you look at the end of this, there's a hole right there that has to fit this together. Well, I don't know how many times I've banged this, and I've dropped this onto the floor. I had to go around looking for it. I think, personally, not that I really want to use the bad word that starts with G. What was the bad word that starts with a G? Glue. Not that I really want to use the idea of glue, but I might just put a little dollop on the end of it just to ensure that the end of the crossbow isn't going to be coming off. If you happen to pick this figure up for yourself, you're going to find that this is banging off a lot, way too frequently than I would like. I would like to have really my crossbows as being one piece instead of two, so I'm just going to glue the end of it. Judge me as you wish. I'm going to just glue it instead. Now, to go along with these, she does also come included with 4 different types of arrows. The arrows themselves, if I can show you, two of them are very similar, other than one has a slightly longer point. The feather on the end is designed very similar. So, of course, you can take this, and there's a little canal. If I just get the camera to focus on it. See, there's a little slot right there. You can take yourself the arrow, and it slides perfectly in place. Now, I don't think it actually bothers me as much that the arrow is going to be falling off. That's something I can easily just put back in place. But the front bow end of the crossbow, I feel like should always have been all one piece. Maybe they did it from a standpoint of a molding. It's just a lot easier to have it as 2 pieces. I would have thought the latter. It would just make more sense if they molded it as one. So she does have those 2 types of arrows, which again are like, one's a little bit longer also as well, but it's got a slightly longer point. She does also come included with this arrow right here, which to look at it right away, you would have thought, hey, no, that's a point. Actually, it's not. It does have like a little end to it. I don't know if it's supposed to be an explosive, but it is different. It is different, though, than a regular arrow. So you can see the differences there. The last thing that she has looks to be one. If I just grab the right one here. Did I grab the right one? Oh, there's the other one. There's the other one. The other one has like a little hook on the end of it. So I would imagine, in my imagination at least, that there's a little string line here, and that this would hook onto a wall, and then maybe she'd use that to climb up the side of the wall. The good thing, at least news-wise, is that there's a place to store this on the side of her body. It is, they have like made little designated holes for each of the arrows, but really when you start putting one in, you'll notice that this is all kind of one open area. Now, you can either slide the arrows down where the feathers are sticking up, but you'll notice that certain arrows don't work as well like that. Ones with points, for example, don't seem to go all the way in there. You'll find yourself fighting with it a lot of times. So you can usually go with the route of having the feathers downside first, and you can do that with pretty much all of them. They slide all conveniently in place. They have their own little homes after all, and just again, just slide that one in, and you can slide this one in as well. So there's storage at least for all the arrows. The quarters, though, get a little tight when you start getting the 4th one in there. It kind of feels like everything kind of gets cramped in there. But at least you can store all the arrows when you're not having it displayed with the characters of crossbow. The other things that she also comes included with, let's just remove these right now because I know I'm going to drop them, is that she also comes with some swappable hands. Now, Scarlett, for right now at least, does have true trigger-firing finger hands. If you prefer, though, closed fists, she does have those as well. It's just a case, obviously, of popping the hands off from the ends of the forearms. You want to see it? Okay, I'll show you guys what that looks like. Just wiggle the hand from the end of the post. It's like this. There we go. One thing I did also want to show you, and maybe one of the reasons why I was open to the idea of changing out the hands, is that the pegs are very long on these. I don't feel like there was a need to add long pegs like this. I think shorter pegs would have worked just as well. Plug that in place. Now Scarlett has a knuckle sandwich. Lastly, the 2 things that she also comes included with as well are guns. Large guns, in fact. Get your mind out of the gutter. The figure does also come included, like I said, with 2 different types of rifles. One is a little bit more closer to the one that we get from the cartoon, and to bring back in Duke's, I want to show you that they are exactly the same. It's kind of asking the question, really, if they're going to make the guns the exact same design, why wouldn't they have kept the colors the same as well? Because Duke's clearly is more of an olive green, Scarlett's kind of more of a khaki brown. Other than just having the differences of the 2 colors, the molds seem to be exactly the same. And then she also comes with what almost looks to be an M16. If it isn't, you can certainly let me know down below in the comment section. Now, to go back to the backpack we looked at earlier, these little pegs on the sides technically can house not only the crossbow. So when you put the crossbow on there, I might even just in fact remove this because I know it's going to fall on the floor. On the back stock there, you can see there's an opening. You just plug it onto that peg. And I was trying to think, like, is there any other place that I can store this? In fact, actually, let's flip this around. So the crossbow fits nicely just underneath that pocket. It's almost like it was designed for that. You can also do that as well for the guns. Now, I find with the M16 is probably the better one to go with. The slot that's on the top here fits perfectly with, well, I don't even want to really say it fits perfectly. You kind of really have to feel like you have to fight it to get it on there. And once that's on there, now I seem to be struggling getting on there. There we go. When it's on there, it does have at least a storage space for that. It will, though, develop what looks to be almost little fracture or stress marks on this. So I don't know if it's supposed to be that way, but it doesn't clearly fit, though, around the trigger. The trigger feel, maybe it's on there as well. Yeah, I guess you could go that route as well. And, of course, that would just go on the back of her body. That's just all this time we've spent now looking at the figure's accessories. Let's go back to looking at Scarlett. And I feel like I'm missing something by not having a little ponytail. So let's go back to the twisted ponytail, which, again, you're just going to dowel on the back of her body. Of course, there we go. Plug that in place. Scarlett, though, for the most part, fits the part nicely. Of course, she's got red hair. The hair itself looks a lot nicer than the Classified series, which strangely kind of went with this neon pumpkin orange color. Looks a little like the X, but other than that, like, I don't think it looked like Scarlett. The colors that they chose kind of went with more blue. They got, of course, I suppose they kind of went with the idea that she would have had the orange top like at the original toy, but they went instead with this very bright, I don't know, again, like custard yellow here for it. It just doesn't work at all, I feel, for Scarlett. I mean, taking the modern spin for the Classified series was probably one of the reasons why I think now they've beelined it back to the idea of making the toys look like the original vintage and not so much kind of redesign the looks of the characters. Some would say it's really time to move on and kind of, you know, if you have the opportunity to redesign the characters, why don't you? But I know, like, much like Transformer fans, you know, if you grew up with the G.I. Joe line as a kid, whether it be the cartoon or the toy line, you obviously are a little more attached to the looks of the character looking like this, and maybe not as much looking like this. Of course, like the original toy, she also has like that lighter beige color, like kind of lighter, I don't know even what color you would call this, like a very light, soft yellow that she has for the top of her torso. Of course, she has that in the gloves, and like in the original toy, she has it also in her boots. The leggings aren't quite blue, but they're very much like a very dark bluish gray almost. Of course, you got the little holsters on the side. We've already looked at those. To store the arrows, not as successfully, granted. And then, of course, the little sheath there on the side. Of course, she's got the markings there like the original toy there on her. I would imagine those would be removable shurikens. You can't take them off, obviously, here on the toy. But again, like, she fits the part okay. The only thing I would say, though, is I'm not really loving the head sculpt. For the most part, it does look like Scarlett. It does look a little like Emma Stone. She's got, of course, the freckles there on the cheeks. It sort of has like this weird look on her face, like she's being tasked right now to clean the kitty litter box. I mean, the coloring certainly is there for the reds. I think the coloring of her hair looks a little bit more closer to the way it should be, rather than that really awkward bright yellow, the bright orange that the original one went with. She's got a little bit of color there to the cheeks there, so it doesn't look like, you know, she has lifeless plastic for the skin tone. She's good looking Scarlett. I just don't know if I love the face, though, as much. Now, for her articulation, you got to be careful, though, with the ponytail. That's the only thing. Like, when you're moving the head back and forth and moving it up and down, the ponytail at times will bang to the shoulders, and sometimes I've had this happen as well, like the ponytail will fall off. But for the articulation, of course, the head being on a ball joint, it allows the head to rotate back and forth. You can move it up, you can move it down. You can also rock it back and forth as well. Scarlett doesn't seem to have a ball joint, or maybe she does, at the base of the neck. Yeah, there's a little bit of movement there as well. So like Duke, she also has 2 points of articulation, one in the head, one in the neck. Upper torso is on a ball joint. The lower torso is also on a ball joint. Arms rotate all the way around. I guess you could really say as well the ponytail does have some articulation, because of course that can rotate back and forth. There's a swivel there in the bicep, a double hinge on the elbow, and the hands rotate all the way around. As for the legs split out. You can take the legs. Of course, you can drop them down too. So if you want to have her in a seated position, I don't know what we will be getting anymore in G.I. Joe, like Classified, or for that matter, like the retro vehicles. I know we have seen some. But like if you want to have her sitting down in something, of course you would just drop the legs down. Those legs easily, though, pop back in place. So swivel there at the top. There is no swivel, it seems, in her thigh, but there is a double hinge, though, in her knee. There's articulation as well for her boots, an ankle pivot back and forth, and an ankle rocker. I know I had already said this earlier, but of course the figure does have pegels on the bottoms of her feet, so make use of the display stands, even though, again, like, they double down on display stand pegs, which, again, I felt was really unnecessary. All in all, though, look at Scarlett. I don't know if, again, I like the look of her face. There's, like, this sort of, she's turned off by something. I don't know whether she, again, has to go clean the kitty litter for Joe headquarters or not. But again, like, she is a good, more modern take to the original classic-looking toy of Scarlett. I never had Scarlett, actually, as a kid. I had Lady J. Lady J never really looked like the way she did in the cartoon, because, of course, she was wearing the hat and all. If I can get her to stand. All this talk and joking around about the display stands, it looks like I'm ultimately going to be needing one. Is she going to stand? Okay, she's going to stand. Bringing back in the Retro Duke, and, of course, bringing back in the classified series of Scarlett to see where we came from. Does this look at all like Scarlett? Based on my own personal opinion, at least, being a guy that has to have all the characters look like the original toy line, just modernized slightly. You just tweak it. You don't need to just reinvent the wheel, because clearly reinventing the wheel gives us a Scarlett that doesn't look at all like the character. The newer Scarlett, I think, looks a little bit more like the part. Of course, the coloring matches that of the original toy line and the way that she looked in the cartoon. And I feel like, again, she has some pretty decent levels of accessories. Still, though, I feel like the problem with the crossbow, and I'm going to just take the crossbow and remove it here from the backpack. Again, I just don't know why they would have the need to make the crossbow as two separate pieces. I know for myself, displaying this on the shelf, my only worry would be that the front of the crossbow would fall off and onto the floor. And my own cat, speaking of litter boxes, would just take it and steal it and run it up the stairs. But all in all, though, I like the look of Scarlett. Again, I just like that they now went the more direction of giving us... It's always hard because, like, as an older collector, we sort of are the ones that are kind of controlling the way that toys are being designed nowadays. You know, every once in a while, like whether it be Transformers or whether it be G.I. Joes, they veer off and they kind of want to reinvent something and redesign it the way that they think that a new toy line should look. And then ultimately, it always ends up going back to the Generation 1 look to it. You know, like Scarlett, again, looks very much more like Scarlett, and it's the type of Scarlett I would have had on the shelf. This Scarlett, very much like the Classified Duke, has been sitting away in totes for years. Sure, yeah, Scarlett has a high accessory count, but the only count I really care about is two, a crossbow and a guided arrow on the end of it in the direction of Cobra. If you wanted, though, to store some extra things on the figure's body, then she has a place to at least accommodate the extra arrows. Don't feel, though, the need, whatever you do, to cram all 4 arrows in there. Sure, there's guided holes, but all the holes are connected with one another. The moment you put 4 in there, they're all going to be squeezed together, and that's not good at all. Of course, there's a sheath on the side of her leg to accommodate the knife. Nowhere to be found, though, on the figure is going to be a holster for the tiny little pistol. I always kind of feel like if you're going to include a pistol for a Joe, then there's always usually going to be a holster somewhere on the figure's legs that are going to go with that. But with Scarlett, though, I can make the exception. Scarlett has a sleeker looking uniform. I don't feel like adding an extra holster is going to add anything more than extra bulk. Of course, there's a hole in the back of her body as well to accommodate the pack. The problem with the pack, though, is whether you use this ponytail or the other one, either way, it's going to make the head movement null and void. When you go to move the head, the ponytail is going to butt right up against the back of her pack, and it's going to usually pop the ponytail right off. And like with everything else, I'm just choosing to go more simpler when it comes to displaying her on the shelf. Like I said, a crossbow and an arrow is all I really need. What do you think of the Scarlett? Let me know down below in the comment section. I definitely think it's an improvement. Even though it's a simpler looking design for the suit, I think it's a much better looking Scarlett than we got with the original Classified release. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Also as well, if you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid. Throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Even though we are wrapping up things right now for Scarlett, it seems to be that we're going to have a very packed G.I. Joe week. So we're going to have some other G.I. Joe reviews coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.